you guys, and welcome to this episode of the Fat Loss and Food Freedom podcast, where we'll be talking about everything fitness, health, nutrition, and relationship to food, to yourself, and to your body. Today, I want to talk to you guys about a voice note that I received from a client of mine the other day. At the time of this voice note, my client is on holiday, and she had her photo taken by her partner. And she really didn't like what she saw in this photo. So she texted me really upset, explaining how awful this photo made her feel and simply how she just really, really didn't like what she saw. And I'm actually used to her being very appreciative of herself, and I'm more used to her hyping herself up and giving herself compliments, but today was different, and we are all human. We all experience this, myself included. Trust me, I really don't think that there is anybody ever who likes all of the photos taken of themselves all of the time. And so today I just want to share a few reminders and insights with you that I also shared with her when she reached out to me. And I really hope that this can help you the next time you see a photo of yourself that you don't really like. But before we dive into it, we need to look at a little bit of science, because there is actually some science to why we don't always like photos of ourselves. There is something called the mere exposure effect. And the mere exposure effect is a psychological phenomenon where people tend to develop a preference for things that they simply are familiar with. So the more that your brain sees an image of yourself in any context, the more likely it is that your brain will start getting used to what it sees and become more and more attracted to it. So what this means then for our self-image, or the way that we see ourselves in photos, is that because we are so used to seeing ourselves in mirrors, or, for example, in a selfie camera, if you take a lot of selfies, but both mirrors and the selfie camera, they actually show a reversed image. So what we see when we look at ourselves in the mirror or in a selfie, it is not actually entirely what other people see. So when we then see a photo that someone else took of us, this is the quote unquote true version of ourselves, which to us can seem really unfamiliar. And I think that we can all relate to this. If you've ever been on a Zoom call or a video call of some sort, you have the option to reverse your image. And I always reverse my image because I think that I look quite strange when it's not reversed. But that is really just because it's how I am used to seeing myself. And I mean, nobody has a perfectly symmetrical face, right? We all have traits that don't perfectly mirror one another on both sides of our face. And when we then see an image of ourselves that is not reversed, the way that we are used to seeing is, this looks unfamiliar. And all those little traits that are not perfectly symmetrical, they become so much more clear to us. And there has been several studies that actually show that what we prefer and what other people prefer when they look at a photo of us is not the same. So if you were to show my partner, for example, or somebody else who knows me, a photo of myself that is reversed and a photo of me that is not reversed, other people actually prefer the image that is not reversed, because this is the way that they are used to seeing us. While ourselves, we often prefer the reversed image because that is how we see ourselves. And another funny thing is actually that me and my partner, we like different photos of me. So I often like, or the photos that I often like, he doesn't like. And the photos of me that he really likes, I don't like very much because to me, I don't really look like myself in those photos. So there is definitely some truth to this. But in general, when it comes to photos, I think that the most important thing to realize or to remember is that photos are just deceptive, right? There are angles, lighting, all those things that contribute to the outcome of this photo, and they are usually out of our control. And also, a photo is just a snapshot of a moment, of a second in time, and it really doesn't capture everything. We as human beings, we are not static. We're not static images in terms of our appearance. We are dynamic and we're always changing and we're moving. And photos are just not a good representation of us. Photos also don't say anything about who you are as a person. So a photo doesn't say anything about who you are as a friend or who you are as a partner, how kind you are, how generous you are, or how caring you are. It doesn't say anything about those things. So I really want you to remember that before you hit delete. And I really, really want you to think about this as well, that when you see a photo of a friend or your partner or a family member, that's not their best photo. I'm sure that you don't start picking them apart or picking that photo apart or being really critical of them and pointing out all their flaws and things that are not perfect about them. And I'm also pretty sure that that photo that's not so great, that it doesn't change your perception of that person at all. So if we are not doing that to other people, then why do it to ourselves? I'm pretty sure that when you look at a photo of someone that you care about and it's not their best photo, you don't really care too much about it. There is quite a big chance that you don't even really think about it. Or you might acknowledge that, okay, that was not their best photo, but then you don't really think more about it. You simply don't care. And it's true the other way around as well. Other people don't care. When they see a photo of you that is not your best photo, that's not going to change how they view you, or that's not going to change how much they love you. And the second thing that I also want you to consider is that photos represent memories. So before you hit delete, try to zoom out a little bit and try to see the bigger picture here. Pun definitely intended. So take a moment and consider, what memories does this photo represent? And if you're being really honest with yourself, what is really the most important thing here? Is it this memory that you've created, or is it the fact that you looked perfect in this photo? And I actually had to remind myself of this as well not too long ago, because my parents are currently putting together a little photo album as a wedding gift to our family friends that are getting married very soon. And there was this photo of me and another girl from many, many years ago. And I really, really do not like this photo. So my first reaction was to ask my parents actually to cut this photo out. But then I realized, with the help of my mother, that nobody cares and that it is just a nice memory. And really, who cares? It is just a photo. And we give things like not the perfect photo just way too much importance. Because when it really comes down to it, who cares? Really? And another thing that we can do that I really encourage as well is to just stop looking at it. We get so obsessed about this photo that we don't like, and it can be really hard to stop looking at it. And there is a funny story about this too, actually, a personal story. Because a couple of years ago, I was traveling with my two brothers, and at some point, I had this really beautiful photo taken of me and one of my brothers. And to this day, it's still one of my favorite photos. It was a really pretty photo, and I liked it so much that I kept looking at it. And I looked at it over and over and over again. And yeah, just across the whole day, I was just looking at it several times. And all of a sudden, I noticed that my perception of this picture was changing. And slowly, I started to notice how I was picking this image apart. I was picking myself apart. And at some point, I even caught myself thinking, is it really such a nice photo, though? I look a little bit strange. My face is a little bit odd. And all of a sudden, I had almost ruined this really beautiful photo because I was just looking at it way too much. And my perception of this photo had just completely changed. So it went from being this really beautiful photo to me to just me being very critical of myself and simply not liking this photo anymore. And at that time, I was in a good state of mind looking at that photo because I really liked it. So imagine if you look at that photo of yours that you don't like when you are already not in the best mood or you're feeling really self-critical. So yeah, I would also just encourage you to not obsess over this photo. Just let it be. And before you hit delete, just pause for a moment. Take a little bit of a time out and let a photo just sit for a while. Come back to it maybe in an hour or a day or a week, maybe even years later. Or don't go back to it at all. Although I do think it's a very good practice to try to be able to make peace with the photos of ourselves, even the less good ones. And to realize that it is just a photo. And like I said earlier, remember that a single photo doesn't define your worth or how amazing you are. There are so many factors that can affect how a picture turns out. Like I said, lighting, angles, timing, and they just don't always capture your true beauty and spirit. And don't forget that your brain might actually be playing tricks on you, and that we often see ourselves in a much harsher light than anyone else does. So try to be a little bit kind to yourself and know that what you might see as a flaw, others probably don't even notice, nor do they care. And if we really, really don't like what we see on a photo or in the mirror, and we also don't like how we feel, then know that we do have the possibility to change it. We are not stagnant and we can change. And we all so much deserve to feel comfortable and confident in our bodies. And this is something that I can help you with. Of course, any change should always come from a place of self-acceptance and self-love and self-care. But I always find it a really reassuring thought that if I don't like the way I look or I don't like the way my body looks, I know that it is possible to change it. Again, I think it's extremely important that even if you want to change the way you look, you need to make peace with the fact that a photo is simply just a photo. And just not letting it have so much power. So I would really urge you and encourage you to try to remove the emotion and think of these photos that you don't particularly like so much as memories. Try to think of each photo as this snapshot of our lives that we will never get back. And with that, I want to leave you guys for this time. I really hope that this could change your perspective a little bit on photos. And I hope that you have enjoyed this episode. If you did, please subscribe to the channel, leave a review, and share it with your friends. And if you want to stay connected, head over to Instagram at johannaandre.coaching and give me a follow over there. I hope to see you there or in the next episode. Bye for now.